This is Charlie Belfont on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And today I got one of my favorite real estate agents in the studio with me. His name is Mike Opyd, and he's a broker manager of, I believe, two. I'm going off the top of my head. I should have written this down. Two RE/MAX offices. I believe they're both called RE/MAX Next. And how many agents you got in both of those offices?
Just over 60.
Just over 60. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, please, Mike.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in real estate for over 13 years now. I was the smart one that jumped in when the recession happened and managed to go into the deep end and still keep swimming. And a number of years later now, more focused on our brokerage, growing that with my partner, and still selling here and there, but mostly focused on the brokerage. Let's see where else I could tell.
Tell us about your school too, please.
We have a company called Next Blueprint, which is a education company for realtors. We just launched that early last year, and really the idea behind it is to provide real-world education for realtors, because it's just, unfortunately, it's not something that's focused on enough, in our opinion, from associations and brokerages. So we saw an opportunity to really help agents who are ultimately helping consumers with the biggest financial decision of their lives. We kind of feel like that's an important thing to do, is to actually get real education to our to the realtors out there. So that's why we started that one as well.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a big gap between the licensure, education, and, well, becoming a top producer.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's an understatement for sure.
And I want to go and dwell on that a little bit more when we get a chance. First, I want to introduce Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law. Patrick, give us a shout out to someone special and tell everyone else why I like you so much.
All right. Well, since it went over so well last week, I'm doing it again. Shout out to Miss Naya T. Cat. That is her full name.
Okay.
It is actually her birthday tomorrow. So
happy birthday,
happy
kitty.
Birthday, Miss Naya T. Cat. She's going to be 7.
All right.
And I have to stop on the way home. Someone helped me remember to get her something catnip or something or another. But also, I should probably say hello to my wife, Anna. Hello. I am Patrick Loftus. I am with Loftus Law. If you want to know about Loftus Law stuff like real estate closings, call or text 773-632-8330.
Outstanding. And then, Joey, I think you're going to be the man of the hour a little bit just because of everything that's going on in the finance world. But if you don't mind, give everybody a shout out. Who are you and why are you so special to me?
Hey, I have nothing special about me, but my name is Joey Mathews, the VA loan nerd over at the Federal Savings Bank, running the frontline team. You can reach me at 630-235-2405, thevaloannerd.com, the VA Loan Nerd across all social media platforms. Today
we got
I get
banks
to be Charlie's
closed.
favorite mortgage guy.
Yeah.
We have a lot of It's and then Credit Suisse trading is down today because a huge Saudi investor is pulling out. Well, not pulling out, but they are limiting their investment in the bank. So we also had retail sales come in negative month or year over year, negative 0.4%, which was expectation, but eliminating for retail for vehicles, it was still net lower than expected. There was a lot of
what does that mean to somebody like me? I mean, does that mean prices went down?
No, it means that people are not buying as much, right?
People aren't buying as much. Okay.
Yeah, there's cracks. Cracks are showing from the increases in the Fed fund rate. People are starting to feel it in their wallet. Things of that nature. So
yeah, usually crack is bad, but in this case, it's probably good in terms of inflation.
Well, in terms of inflation, it should be, and we won't see that until next month. This month, inflation data came out yesterday. Yesterday being Tuesday, March 14th, if you're listening on Saturday morning right now, and if you are, God bless you for waking up so early and tuning in. So inflation came back into 6% yesterday, which is lower than last month at 6.4. So we are still tracking downwards. Markets are still anticipating that the Fed will raise the Fed fund rate 0.25%. They're still anticipating that. They're saying an 85% chance that they do. But now, as of this morning, I'm also seeing a lot of speculation that by year end, we will see the Fed cut the Fed funds rate by year end by 100 basis points, which is 1%. So if the target
That's a
rate
big
is
jump,
5,
isn't it?
it's a huge jump. It's a huge jump. But I mean, the 10-year Treasury on Friday last week when it opened was trading at a 4% yield, just over a 4% yield. It's down to a under 3.5% yield right now. So almost a 60 bips drop in 3 trading sessions. So I mean that's huge. It has not crawled as much through to the mortgage-backed securities market as I would like to see. I would like to see significant repricing. But I think investors are holding off to see the volatility shake out and if we can see some recovery. Because yesterday we actually saw recovery. So on Monday we dropped down to a 3.3% on the yield, and then it shot back up to a 3.7 yesterday, and now it's back down to a 3.4. So it's incredibly volatile, and I think that if we stick to the number that we're at right now, then by Friday. We'll see some significant changes in mortgage pricing.
Yeah, that might not sound like much to your average person, but when you're talking about large institutional investors putting money somewhere for 10 years, 0.4% is huge for a one-day swing.
Yeah, well, I mean, shoot, 0.6% if you're looking at Friday's trading session, right? Because it was what? I'm going to look at it right now. It was trading at a 4.011, so just over 4% yield on Friday, down to right now at 3.425. So you're looking at a 60 bips drop. And yeah, again, over 10 years. And why is this important? We just saw why this is important with the failure of Signature Bank, with the failure of the Silicon Valley Bank. So,
and those are the only 2 right now that have just went. There was a 3.
There was a third one out of I want to say it was New York. It wasn't that big. I think it was a $2 billion loss, not anything like the what was it, 200 billion something that the FDIC is going to back for the depositors in Silicon Valley, which is the second biggest bank failure in our history. And I'm not trying to invoke fear because this isn't like 2008. No. It's a very different sector of banking. Like this isn't affecting Chase. This isn't affecting like those monster banks right now. But what I will say is that Silicon Valley Bank grew very big, very quick over 2019 to 2021. Obviously, when people started getting money injected into their accounts from COVID, they started depositing that, particularly in the tech sector, into Silicon Valley Bank. So their assets, their depository accounts tripled during that time frame. And the way banks operate, they can't just sit on your deposits. If they sit on your deposits, they are automatically losing money because they have overhead. They have to pay their employees. So they have to invest that money somewhere, right? And the only place that they could really invest that money at that time was in these long-term securities, which would be a 10-year Treasury. And at that time,
they were pretty low.
2020, you're talking about a 0.6% yield over 10 years. And that money's locked up. Same thing with if you're investing in mortgage-backed securities, you're investing in long-term yields at very low prices. So as the Fed funds rate is increasing and the cost to borrow money is increasing, now you're operating at a loss and you don't have the money to cover the deposits that are in your account. So they're running in the negatives for I don't know how long it was, but they just had a clean and what was it? Who came by? I can't remember off the top of my head, but they just had a clean bill of health passed a few months ago, and now that's being investigated too because they were operating at a loss. So yeah, that's essentially why yields matter because banks, investors, they price into these what are considered safe securities, but when they're yielding very little over a long period of time, they can operate at a loss. And I don't know how they weren't able to just say, no, we can't take this on. I mean, it's hard to say no to money, I guess, when they were accepting more and more deposits. I mean, tripling your depository accounts over a couple of years is insane, I would imagine. But it's a totally different sector of banking that I work in. So I can't speak too much to it, but yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly. And then yesterday, regional banks started coming back a little bit. And then today, this morning, Credit Suisse, losing their big Saudi investor, is just tanking that market again right now. So,
and what does that mean to me, though? And you mentioned about investors and so forth, too. You know, what does it mean to invest in a bank?
So, well, I mean, investing in a bank it's really like investing in any company. You're looking to get money back that you're putting in. So I'll pull up some information I
And
have
if
at Credit
those
Suisse,
and
'cause
if those banks go down, those investors, they don't get any money
they don't
back,
get
right?
anything back.
They
Exactly.
lost.
Yeah.
So it's only the
So
people with actual accounts that are guaranteed up to that 250,000
Or
yeah,
more.
well,
or
and the
more,
FDIC
500
is
for.
saying,
Well,
yeah.
it's but it wasn't that the thing though with Silicon Valley Bank is that in order to stop that bank failure from becoming a contagion on the rest of the banking sector,
Yes.
the Biden administration said we're not going to limit it to the 250. We're going to make everyone whole, because that's the thing. It's like a dam that gets that the water flows over. Once you start that bank run, a whole panic ensues, because no one wants to be the last one in line when the money runs out.
I will be the last one in line. I'm always the last.
Well,
one that comes out.
exactly. This is why I'm heavily into Bitcoin. We can talk about that on my other show, Bitcoin Today.
I love it.
Love it.
So I'm gonna switch up. Thank you, Joey. By the way, that's always, I just what's going on in the world with
It's
finances.
Just a lot.
And especially this last week, a whole bunch of stuff was really happening quickly and that. So, but what we do is mostly talk about real estate, and that's what the show is. I'm going to try and get us back onto that subject there. We went out earlier today, and I was doing a little bit of whining. I wanted to, get in there. I said, it seems like the big disconnection that I see with real estate agents that I work with, and even attorneys that we work with and so forth, and mortgage brokers, it seems like the poor inspector is left out of the loop. All right, you guys seem to talk to each other, and I don't get included. So now I'm whining. Why is it that we don't want to talk to home inspectors? And I'm throwing it out to all three of you.
If I had to, I suppose, guess, it's as much as anything just the way that things have developed.
Interesting.
And one thing a point I intended to make, if I didn't make it, was that I think there's a lot of room for improvement there in terms of incorporating inspectors into that team, so to speak. We associate the realtor, the attorney, the mortgage broker, at least on the buyer side, as sort of a team unit, where each of us has our role in advising and assisting the client in getting that deal across the line. Considering the fact that the inspection is really the inflection point in most deals, I'm not entirely sure why we don't incorporate the inspector, at least in the early point of the transaction, more into that team.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is from an agent's perspective is and why it's so important that an agent partners up with a good inspector is that is typically where deals are going to fall apart, when they do fall apart. And a lot of that comes with just not having the proper communication with the inspector before the inspection, that inspector maybe not having the proper communication at the inspection, and then after as well. And I think, Charlie, to your point about not being so as involved, I think that there is kind of a role that's played where inspectors are involved in the very beginning, and then that role essentially ends when attorney review ends for the most part, unless there's lingering questions that a buyer is going to have. Because you guys are paid to kind of go out there and really give us that thorough look over on the place and make sure these buyers are buying something that isn't going to be, a money pit, and really point out the main concerns. And then essentially you're doing your job. You're literally finding all the things that a buyer is going to be concerned about, things that they need to maybe prep for down the line, if there's some ages of some things that they might have to fix down the line or replace. So I just think that there's literally just a beginning and an end point. It usually is just the beginning of the transaction, those first couple of weeks, really.
And Charlie, let me turn this back on you, as you are so accustomed to and fond of doing to us. I get the sense from some inspectors that they would rather just come in, do the inspection, issue the report, and just be on to the next thing. Why do you think that might be?
I honestly
I know you're not
don't
like
know.
that, so
Yeah.
just to be clear.
And I can't answer for other people. I really don't know. Some people think of it as a money thing, where I think of it as a human interaction thing. So this, to me, food, water, shelter. You've heard me say it over and over again. It's one of our necessary needs, and it's an emotional process. And Mike, I'm hoping you're going to back me up on this sort of stuff. Buying a home is rewarding. I can go on with some cool stuff that I've done in my life, delivering babies and pulling people out of buildings and the paramedic stuff and that. But honestly, I get such great reward when I'm done and somebody shakes my hand and they say thank you and they hand me a check. But I think the biggest thing, and I get what you're saying, the home inspection stage or the attorney review stage, that time frame, is where you're getting bombarded from every different direction. But I always go back to the key word is expectations. And anytime that somebody gets a surprise, no matter what if it's with Joey, because the mortgage isn't going through or something, or maybe you get an attorney who says, all right, we're going to go ahead and ask for all this stuff. Now all of a sudden emotions start flying up in there, and because the expectations weren't set in the first place. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, and how do we overcome it?
I think, from a buyer's perspective, they got to understand really what a home inspection is there for. I think that's really where the failure comes into play, is either agents not doing their job or whatnot to really kind of walk them through what those couple hours spent in that property with that inspector really entail. And it's there to really protect them more than anything. More often than not, people are buying something used. It's a used product, right? It's a used property. It's no different than buying a used car, right? Like, you really want to know what are the main things wrong with this place, things that are going to really cost you money, the big ticket items or safety hazards. The rest of it, you're going to live with, right? If you buy a car and the engine runs, but it's got some scratches, you're like, okay, cool. The car runs. That's what my main goal is there, is to get something that gets me from point A to point B. When you buy a property, the main things a buyer needs to be really worried about is, what are the big ticket items, like, how's the furnace? How's the roof? Is there any water issues? Any electrical issues? Plumbing, like the big things that are going to cost them down the line. And that's where the focus really should be. Not, does this cabinet stick a little bit? Is there some scratches on the floor? Those are the expectations that really should be laid out before they ever step foot into that property with an inspector. Because if they have that mindset going in, they're not going in thinking, okay, I'm looking at scratches on the floor, that's $5,000, like, oh, I'm going to redo this cabinet that's got this little chip,
A lot of people think that way, though. I
do.
see that. So you share stuff with the I'm going to call us partners, all right? So let's go with the attorney first. So you got a client, this is a listing, all right, and you're going to start the whole process with the attorney. What information do you think should be shared about the client with the attorney? Let's go to that route first. And then you, please, what else do you want to know? I'm asking Patrick. So Michael, please.
From a listing standpoint or the buyer standpoint?
You know what? I said listing, but let's go either side.
From a listing standpoint, it's pretty straightforward. I think there's, that one is not as difficult because it's more like we got to see what happens with the buyer side,
Okay.
But I think there are some things we could talk about, but I think more or less the buyer side is that attorney has to kind of know, and the inspector as well too, what are the expectations of these clients? Like, what are they looking to do? What's important about this property? Is it an investment for them? Do they care about all the little things that need to be fixed, or are they just worried about the big stuff? Are they first-time home buyers who are scared, and are terrified of every little thing? Do they need to be talked to a little bit differently? I think when everyone on, all the partners know what the, expectations are from the buyer, what their goal is, what the purpose of them purchasing this property is, the conversation shift tremendously. From an inspector standpoint, you can go in and go like, well, I know these guys don't care so much about the appliances. They're replacing all of them. But I could put more focus on, how many layers does this roof have? Does the roof leak? Do they have to replace this? You know, and then when I'm speaking to an attorney, you know, and I'm going, hey, Patrick, you know, we just got the inspection done. You know, really, these are the things that they're more concerned about than anything. Now, Patrick could have those type of conversations with the clients instead of just going, I have no idea what I'm going to talk to him about, so I'm going to talk about everything, because that could really steer things in the wrong direction.
And what about with Joey? I mean, do you have conversations with the mortgage person too, or?
That's such a personal thing, the mortgage stuff. I always try to tell my clients, like, I don't care anything to do about your personal, you know, financial situation. I really let the lenders kind of handle that. That's their role in the process.
I love that.
What do you want to know, Joey? I mean, does it matter, or is it just numbers is all I need, or?
No, well, it's a trust thing, right? So Mike is referring people that he trusts, right? And if they're pre-approving that person, then that's what matters. If something comes up where, and this would come up before pre-approving. If something comes up, they may want to talk about it because if it's going to affect negotiation, then Mike will need to know that, right? But outside of that, if you're referring someone, it's because they're going to close for you. So no, I love what Mike just said.
The biggest thing with that, just to piggyback off what Joey said, is the credit thing is always interesting because a lot of buyers want credits, but there is a limit to how many credits you could actually ask for. And I think that's where a lot of buyers go in with this mentality of like, I want all my closing costs covered. You know, the seller will cover those. I'll just wrap it into my loan. No big deal. And then we have the inspection. And the inspection goes, you need a new furnace. That's $2,000. And they're like, oh, we'll just get a credit for it. Oh, wait, your credit's maxed out. Yeah. You know, like you can't ask for it. And now we got a whole different set of headaches. So I think there's also that piece that isn't really talked about enough that it plays a huge role in these transactions.
Now, is that made ahead of time before the mortgage is applied for those credits, or is that, or before the pre-approval process? Yeah. I don't even know if that question makes sense or not. You know, so are you getting that information about, you know, about the client and the, would you say, closing costs?
Yeah.
That are on there. Do you know offhand before they apply for the mortgage what those are going to be? No. Okay.
Well, I would say that there's maybe one exception to that, which is sometimes an offer is made with the anticipation of a credit. So there's even a paragraph on page 1 of the multi-board that says closing cost credit of X amount.
When you say multi-board, you're talking about that 7.0 real estate contract.
That 13-page beast.
You know, I've come to love that one.
I do too, actually.
it works quite well. So, yeah, and sometimes that is necessary to structure the deal. So, you know, Joe, you might see those with VA loans, for example. If somebody doesn't have a lot of cash, but they do qualify and it's 100% financing, if they also need to finance a lot of those closing costs, they're going to wrap that in as well. Usually that also will move the needle a little bit on the purchase price, just to kind of net it out for the seller. But yeah, absolutely. When you see a number on that line, you then start to reality check it, and we've talked about this before. There's different standards. Joey, I think you've referenced it's 3% or 6% or 9% depending, and I don't remember all of the details on it, but
for sure. I mean, I could break it down. You know, it's quick. Yeah. So on a primary or second home, if you're putting less than 10% down, it's going to be a 3% limit on interested party contribution, and that actually includes any credits like from the lender. So if you're getting lender credit on top of seller credit, then you have to make sure that stays under 3%. If you're putting 25% down or less, just under 25% down to 10%, then it's a 6% limit. If you're putting 25% or more, then it's a 9% limit. On an investment property, you're limited to 2%. On FHA, it's at 6%. On VA, it's unlimited, but you are capped at concessions of 4%. Concessions are, you know, seller buying down your debt, buying you a fridge, things of that nature.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I see if I get an FHA contract in and it's got like a $5,500 credit, you know, I'm probably telling the client we're not going to ask for credit because there's no purpose to it. We're not really going to accomplish anything because whatever we agree to, it's not going to work anyway.
What's the difference between asking for credit and lowering the price?
Well, there's some differences. One, it will change the transfer taxes. It will also create a comp that maybe is a little bit detrimental to overall home values. So I think
So looking at your face and listening to you, that's not a common thing, is what I'm hearing.
Well, Mike's shaking his head, and I agree. I suppose I'm a lawyer. The answer is always it depends, right? So the way we generally write these things is, we want a credit of, let's just use a whole number, 3,000, and then we'll say if for some reason the lender won't approve that, whatever isn't approved gets applied toward the purchase price as a price reduction, something along those lines, to kind of cover our bases that way. But we don't like to do it.
I understand. Patrick, if somebody has questions about this, how do they get hold of you?
Well, you're welcome to follow me on Instagram, Loftus_law. I post daily some really nice tidbits and morsels. You can also follow me on TikTok at Loftus Law.
Sounds good. And your phone number, please?
773-632-8330.
And usually something Patrick says is don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button, alert, everything else. Just smash anything that's
Smash
there.
the like button. You guys smash it.
Break your mouse on it.
Yeah.
Right? No lies. Joey,
I'm
how
not
do they get
replacing
hold
your
of you?
mouse.
I can be reached at 630-235-2405, thevaloannerd.com, or at the VA Loan Nerd on all the social medias.
Sounds good. And my name is Charlie Belfontaine with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Our website is The Home Inspectors. That's plural, ORS, and it's a .com. And anybody who's interested in entering the home inspection field, we also own Home Inspection University of Illinois, and that website is HIUIL.com. And we're just constantly putting extra classes up there. We try to leave a lot for free. So, Mike, how do they get hold of you, please?
Yeah, really easy. My phone number is 312-929-8910. On social media, just Mike Opyd, MikeOPYD. And if I love emails, so Mike at remaxnext.com is really kind of the best way to get a hold of me.
And I want to follow up, and then we'll come back to this communication thing, because I really think it's important, and I like to dwell on that stuff. But when you bring on, like, you have 2 offices, you got 60-plus agents in there, and then you also have a school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remax Next? Or no, it's Next
Blueprint.
Next Blueprint is the name of the school. And you pretty much make anybody who works in your office go through that program, right?
Yeah, that's
And
our
this
our mentorship program, and then we have the company itself as well.
So this is past getting your license and post-licensing.
Yes.
What is the purpose of this training program? Why should somebody take your class?
The biggest thing with it is just that there's, and I'm going to get on my high horse here
Get on
because
it.
I am, because I just think there's a massive lack of education. Yeah, Patrick's riding a horse right now. But there's a big lack of education in the real estate industry, especially for realtors. The barriers of entry are so low, and ironically, they've gotten even lower since I joined, which is
I would say the same for home
mind-blowing.
inspectors.
Yeah,
I say it all the time.
It's ridiculous, and there's no real education that is offered except for at the brokerage level,
Okay.
and that's what frustrates me is that the National Association, Illinois Association, and Chicago Association of Realtors, they don't really have, they have some basic stuff at Chicago Association of Realtors, but it's very general.
Okay.
And it doesn't really educate about like how to build a real estate business. And that's really where our mentorship program, the Blueprint, comes into play, is we tackle all the main things that agents really need to understand, even starting at the mentality of here's what you're walking into. This isn't HGTV. This isn't Bravo, $1 million listing where we're all driving Lambos and going to these exotic parties. Like, you're going to go show $60,000 homes that are probably not the prettiest thing when you first get started, because you got to take everything under the sun and you got to mentally be prepared for that. So we really start there and kind of build them up, building a database, marketing to that consistently, how to actually convert leads, which is always very interesting, because when we sit with agents that want to join our brokerage, I would say 8 out of 10 ask us, well, do you guys provide leads? And my follow-up question is for them is, if I gave you one right now, what would you do? And you should see the looks on these agents' faces. They're not prepared for that. So
this is so Glengarry Glen Ross right now. I love
right?
it.
I mean, Baldwin to a T, right? Minus the brass balls, obviously. But we really educate on like everything, even to the point of our last meeting. We actually go into how to understand expenses and taxes. And yes, we're not tax professionals, but as an independent contractor, you got to make quarterly tax payments. And if you don't know that, the government damn well knows, and they're gonna hit you up and fine you if you don't make your quarterly payments. So that's how deep we go with this, and it's literally everything an agent needs in a 6-week span, really.
It makes so much sense. I don't know why every brokerage wouldn't have something similar. I mean, you have 60 agents. They can either be mediocre or they can all be all-stars. And you have a huge hand in that. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Do you want me to tell you why? Because I don't want to...
It's all right.
Look, if you look at it from a brokerage perspective, it's a numbers game for a lot of them. Their focus is on just how many agents can you get in the door. And a lot of the models are built that way. They're old school. They're very archaic. They've been around forever, and they haven't changed their models. So for them, they just want to get a bunch of agents in the door because they go, well, some of them are going to hit, right? As opposed to how we look at it, where we go, we're selective who we let in. We don't, no matter who we interview, they're always under scrutiny. Like, is this person going to fit the company? Are we going to actually be able to educate them? Are we going to be able to train them? And do they really want to do this? Because it's easy to get a license. Like I said, I mean, all you need is a high school education, about $200, and you can take some online courses, pass your state national exam, and you are literally helping people with hundreds of thousands of dollars in decisions, right? Biggest
you can
financial
help
decisions.
and harm people.
And harm and set generations back, with people. So we're very selective with who we bring in, because if they don't have the mentality, they don't really want to do this, we don't want them at the brokerage because of all the education we do. But
describe to me the perfect broker that you want to recruit into the brokerage. What are you looking for?
We like hungry people who see this as something they really want to do. And we ask
full-time over part-time?
Not
or
necessarily.
You don't care?
If somebody wants to do this, they're going to find a way to do it. Whether you jump full head steam or full in, head first and just go with it with no backup, or you need to use real estate as the beginning side hustle until you're in a place where you can transition. But you'll know those people who want to do it. And what we do is we have a lot of trigger questions that we ask them, little things that we go through the interview process with them as we get to know them. And we don't really care what they say to these questions. We care how they react to them. And we watch the facial features, how their tone is, what their body does. Because you could tell, people could BS like there's no one's business anymore, right? So they might say all the right things, but if I look at them and I go, oh, this person definitely doesn't believe what they're saying right now. We just say thank you, but no thank you. And I think that's really what we're looking for, is just those agents that want to do this and want to learn how to do this. And that's what we bring on.
And it's funny you mention it, because same thing when we recruit inspectors, and this is something that's not allowed in the real estate community. If you're a school teaching real estate, you cannot recruit that student who's in there to come into your brokerage office. They try to put that into our law, but it's not there, right? Mm-hmm. So we can recruit from the classes. And I like that because I'm able to see somebody and how they interact with other humans, and right. I always go after the character. I don't really worry about the knowledge. It sounds like I don't care about knowing the technical things. I really do. But I can't teach, Patrick, unless you can, I can't teach somebody how to be kind and value another human being. I can't do that. All right. So I look for that passion in the other person ahead of time, but I can teach the technical, the experience, everything else I can get for them. I know you're kind of by yourself right now, but if you were, what would you be looking for?
I don't know. Definitely. I mean, you can tell someone who is engaged, who is interested. Anyone can tell you what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear, and I can sit here all day and I can tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, and you'll make me feel good, warm, fuzzy, but you're not gonna meet my expectations.
But only because I'm very charming. If I'm not very charming, then I'm just going to be saying a bunch of stuff, and then it's just going to go right in one ear and out the other. You're going to go, yep, that guy is full of it, and you move on to the next person. And
I think your wife is listening right now and rolling her eyes on the charming line.
oh,
I'm sorry.
I think I'm going to have to edit this part out before she and I watch this. But that's more of a relationship issue for me. So.
And Joey, same thing. I mean, do people come to you, Joey, when they're already licensed, to be a mortgage originator, or is there something that you have to work with them on?
I mean, some do, and I prefer someone who is raw to the industry, but I can see that they want to be in it. And honestly, if they go ahead and take like the Safe MLO course, which is the 20-hour course that you got to take to go into the private mortgage side. I like to see that because you have to pay to take that course. There's no guarantee of a job. And if you're coming to me with that, then, at least I see that you have done something. But I don't necessarily like bringing on people that are just hopping around because the grass isn't always greener on the other side, right? What is it that you think everyone else is doing wrong? Right? Is it everyone else is doing something wrong, or maybe you doing something wrong and you're just looking for more than actually exists? So
give me some examples. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
No,
they're looking for the stack of good leads, from Glengarry Glen Ross. It's out there somewhere,
Put
right?
that
People are
coffee
always
down.
asking me, dude. Oh my God, people are always asking me for leads. I'm like, this isn't there's no such thing as just getting leads. If you want leads,
Right.
go work at Rocket Mortgage and just pick up the phone all day. Like that's not my business. I find clients or get clients referred to me, right? It makes me sick the amount of people that just want things handed to them. And I mean, whatever. We've lost a lot of people in the mortgage banking industry this past year, and I'm all for it because it weeds out a lot of that crap. Yeah, sorry. I get real. I'm a big fan of education, like Mike is. Like I want people that have no problem finding answers. I don't like people that come to me with a problem without what they believe they found for a solution, and then I can work with that, right? Yeah. I like people who dig. So
Mike's shaking his head yes on that comment.
Yeah, we that's one of the things that when we talk to our brokers, we tell them, like, if you're calling me or my partner and you haven't looked into this, I tell them to hang up and look into it and then call me.
And it's part of the learning.
It's exactly it. And to Joey's point, like, that everyone expects things handed to them nowadays because we have technology at our disposal. We can just Google any question we have, right? I mean, we could literally find answers to everything. And that's why when they come to me without looking stuff up, I'm just like, you're kidding me, right? Like, all you have to do is pull your phone out and Google it and at least do some type of an effort and then come to me with a real logical question when you are getting to a point where you're stuck. And I think that's where a lot of agents and everyone else now just seems to be, is they just want someone else to kind of do it for them. And it's not going to help. I mean, the experience in this industry...
It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. I mean, come on. You see all these people driving their fancy
cars. No one
cars.
wants to work for the money. No one wants to work for the
look,
check.
if it was a get-rich scheme, no offense, guys, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be on a beach. I wouldn't be sitting in 30-degree weather, in the city of Chicago.
Me neither. I'd be right next to you.
Yeah.
I'd be on some other beach. I don't know if I want to be next to y'all. I mean, I'd be there with my wife.
I feel it's mutual on that. I don't know if I want.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I got to find a couple guys that are much bigger than I. So I look sexy when I'm compared to them,
Charlie, I want to point something out. You usually talk about how I'm the one with the most credentials in the room, and
you are.
Well, you're right. But let me point something out. I'm always at pains to try to play that down because it doesn't make me better than anyone else. But the newest version of ChatGPT, GPT-4, scored in the 90th percentile on the multi-state bar exam. Okay,
Nice.
so guess what? All the rest of you lawyers all zero of you who are watching this.
Oh, that's coming.
Be
Artificial
ready.
intelligent lawyers.
You know, if you
know?
haven't already prepared, well, you're way behind. We're way behind me. So, you know, keep sticking your head in the sand, because that thing is coming. It's not coming years now, and you know, now I'm getting on my high horse. That one's not for the radio. You know, these models are coming fast and furious.
Yes.
By the end of the year, we're going to be at a state where the AI models are improving themselves. It won't even be the developers doing it anymore.
It's going to be called Skynet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then the Terminator movies will come true. You know, that's all there is to it. Machines are going to take over the world.
If that's the case, I will see you later. I've got a lot to do between now and the end of the year.
You got to get to the warm sun. That's what it is.
Before I get plugged into the Matrix.
No, for me, it's always, you know, why choose me? You know, I base my whole business on those 3 words. Why should somebody want to work with me? And then I like to come up with some legitimate answers. And Mike, to your point, and you didn't quite say this, but I think it's kind of the same deal. When I ask somebody why they should, and I'm talking to other home inspectors, they come to me for coaching and building their business up and that. And, you know, and other people will tell them, well, you just put your sticker on some tape measures and stuff like that and give it to everybody else and they're all going to want to work with you. I'm like, that's not the truth. All right? It's you. It's not the sticker or the business cards or wearing your shirts or hats, you know, or any logos or associations. None of that stuff matters. And I don't think it matters in the real estate world either, right?
It's the magnet on your truck.
Yeah, there's no magnet on my truck either. All right, where it comes to that stuff. But why? Why should somebody choose you? And that's what it sounds like I'm hearing from you, Mike, is why should you know, one of my favorite things, and I repeat this, and I stole this from you, by the way.
That's fine.
You know, is and I ask real estate agents when we're toying or thinking about building a relationship with them, one of the questions I ask them is, what do you sell? You know. And if they look at me like I'm an idiot and they tell me I sell houses, of course, what are you, dumb? You know?
Right.
And Mike, please tell them the right answer.
No, we sell ourselves. We sell our services.
You sell your reputation. You know, and that's important. Absolutely.
Yeah, and what's interesting now is that, you know, and I, you know, all no offense to any Bettys out there, but I always use Aunt Betty as like as an example when I'm talking to agents in our mentorship program, because, you know, years ago, you know, listing agents, you know, anytime you go on a listing, you were still fighting for listings. But times have changed so much now because the buyers have changed. You know, millennials, Gen Z's right behind them, they don't just go with whoever is recommended to them. They actually interview multiple agents. And this is what's kind of new.
And inspectors, too.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what's really new on the buy side, because typically on the listing side, you know, sellers are going to interview 2 or 3 agents. But what I started noticing about, I would even say about 10 years ago, is that, you know, I would get recommended and I would always ask them like, hey, you know, are you talking to any other agents? And almost 100% of the people have said, yeah, you know, I'm going to go, there's somebody else we're interviewing. And this is on the buy side. And that's where the importance of understanding what you sell come into play, because now that we're, you know, not everyone's using Aunt Betty that was referred to them by their parents. You know, our generation, the millennial, or my generation, excuse me, the millennials, like, they are smart. They're more savvy. We grew up with technology. We could find different realtors anywhere just by Googling, right? And Gen Zs, they're even more locked into technology. So from an agent's perspective, you got to go into not just listing appointments now, but buyers appointments where you're meeting them for the first time, and you got to show these people that you know exactly what you're doing, that they can trust you, that you have their best interests in mind, and you're not in this for a paycheck, because someone else is going to show them all that, and they're going to go with them. So that's where understanding what you sell really comes into play.
You know, that's those words. I mean, someone should put them on a coffee cup, because, you know, really.
Which ones exactly?
Well, okay, so Mike, as you were talking, and it was just kind of like, you know, lighting up a couple of areas of my brain. One is that, you know, why do you do what you do? And if the first thing that comes to mind is for money, forget it. You're done.
Yep.
That's a short-term motivator.
Yep.
Sure, because, you know, something else is going to come up. You know, real estate's not so hot right now, so I'm going to go hop on the next thing. So if you don't have any belief, if you don't really commit to it, people can sense it. You know, and this sounds a little touchy-feely, but that is something that's very important to consider. And then there's the quote that Charlie, I shared with you, and that really is something that I try to bear in mind every day, is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that is attributable to Simon Sinek. I want to make
Good
sure
man.
I don't get credit for that, because I don't deserve it. But, you know,
Yeah,
those
the
are
why.
words to live by, really,
Yeah.
to be honest, as an entrepreneur at least.
But sometimes I hear that too, and trust me, I am a believer in the why. All right, I really am. But then I hear, you know, people's answers to the why. Oh, because I want to help people and I want to do some nice things. Okay, those are great whys, but Mike's shaking his head
Yeah,
no.
it's not
That
real.
has nothing to do with it.
All right, tell me, what are good whys then?
Wow, I
You
mean,
know?
it's
Both of you guys, why are you both in this business?
well, I think whys actually have a personal why. In my opinion, it goes so much deeper than just helping people, because it's like that's obviously a part of it, right? That's what we do, and the best agents are the ones that care and do it the best. But whys for each individual person go so many more layers in that, and it's all on a personal level. Like I mean, I'll share mine, for instance, is that one of my whys is my boys, you know, and I so much so that I got a bracelet with their initials on it, because it reminds me every day of why I get up at the time I do, why I do what I'm doing, is because I want my family to be financially free by the goals I have set, you know. That's the why for me. It has nothing to do with, you know, I want to help these people buy places. I mean, that's all a byproduct of getting me to my actual why. And that's when we speak to agents a lot of times. It's funny, I'll ask them that question, and that is the common answer, is like, well, I want to help people with the biggest financial decision of their lives. I'm like, that's fantastic, but why do you really want to do that? And you got to keep asking that question, why, until you dig deep enough where you really fully understand. So like if someone goes, well, I want to make a bunch of money. Well, why do you want to make a bunch of money? Well, I want to buy this. Well, why do you want to buy that? Well, and then eventually you get to the real reason why they're doing it. And that's anyone that does anything entrepreneurial, especially, like you have to know what that truly is. Otherwise, you don't know what your driving factor is.
And I'll throw mine out there, you know, and you're absolutely right. Money is one of the number one reasons. I mean, whenever a crime has occurred, you talk to the cop, they're going to tell you follow the money. All right, and then you'll find out who the guilty party is that route. I want to make money. I'm okay working hard now, and I'm going to tell you, in about 10, 15 years from now, I really don't. I like to have some sort of steady income. I want to put in all this super hard work now so I don't have to, I can live a nice life later on. And if I could do it and still have the ability to, you know, feel like I'm doing some good, you know, like I became a fireman and a paramedic because I felt it was rewarding, all right? And I found this job is also rewarding when we deal with the clients and stuff. So I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And Patrick, I kind of, you know, same thing. If somebody wants to know what your why is, what are you going to tell them?
Well,
And Joey,
you know,
you better get your notes going.
yeah, this is something that I'm exploring every day to really drill down to.
That's
I think,
fair.
like Mike pointed out, you know, you start with one answer and then you ask the question again. You go, well, shoot, I hadn't thought that deep into it. But you know, for me, it's really about being in an area of law where people are more or less trying to accomplish the same goal. But that they need a lawyer to bring them through it. And it's very hands-on in terms of working with the clients. I don't like going to court. So, you know, this is a way for me to use my law license. Really? 5 minutes left already?
Yes.
My goodness. Always. Every
Always.
week.
Sorry about that.
No, that's not you. I'm just like shocked. So, yeah, it's finding the one area of law where I can wake up every day and be like, yeah, okay, this is something where it's real people fighting over stuff that it's not like divorce law where people are fighting over spite often. It's not criminal law where we're deciding. You know, the worst thing that could ever happen to me is I represent an innocent person and end up going to jail. I don't think I could psychologically handle it. In this case, the worst thing that could happen is someone buys the wrong house, and by and large, it's not going to be because of something that I did wrong. It'll be because of some outside factor. But the vast majority of circumstances, you have people that have a smile on their face. It feels good when you shake their hand at the end of the closing and
That's
someone
a big
hands
deal
them
to me.
keys.
Yeah.
There's not that many parts of law that are more rewarding. And this let's face it, I mean, this is a profession where you can find very rewarding things. And if it was just about money, I would be in a different area of law because I could make way more money doing something else. But this is the one I chose.
Sounds good. And Joey, you got to give me a 30-second why, and then I need you to give out your contact information. We're running low on time.
Well, I feel like my contact information will take 30 seconds, but no. At the end of the day, if you want to why, it's because I don't mess around. You're gonna get whatever news I can give you. Bad news, good news. It's all news. It's all better than hearing nothing. And you're gonna close. If I pre-approve you, you're gonna close. Period. Unless the house falls apart during the whole process. But as a buyer, you will be good.
But it's accurate news, whether it's good or bad. That's the important part.
Any news is good news. At the end of the day, any news is good news, whether it's quote unquote bad, whatever. 630-235-2405. TheVALoanNerd.com, the VA Loan Nerd at social media.
Sounds good. Mike, if you don't mind, give us all your contact information. Get ready with the pen and pencil, please.
Cell phone 312-929-8910, and really easy on social media, just Mike Opyd, MikeOpyd, and email mike@remaxnext.com is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
And can anyone take or get involved in the Next Blueprint program, or is it only the people in your brokerage?
No, the Next Blueprint, we have two parts to it. One part is the brokerage part for our agents, and then the other is the actual real estate company. Real estate education company called Next Blueprint as well. Then that's for any realtors. Outstanding.
Patrick, can you give us your contact information, please?
773-632-8330. Insta is Loftus_law. TikTok, Loftus Law.
And then you also do that TikTok program, for cheap flights as well. And I just love the fact that you're in the 30,000 mark for followers, and that's climbing ridiculously fast.
I think you meant to say 36,700. Wow.
I did not, but I am corrected anyway.
It is. Let me help you fly if you like to travel and you don't like to spend lots of money.
Sounds good. And my name is Charlie Belfontaine. Thank you, Devin Tingle, for being our producer and making everything work. And this is Charlie, and I am out.